Well, we've got a special one here today, you guys. This is the Benno RemiDemi, and I just got off the phone with Benno Benziger. It's this Swiss guy who grew up in Germany. He started the company Electra in 1993. He sold it to Trek in the early 2000s, stayed there for a while, and now he's got this company. They make like the Benno Boost and some other fun little bikes. This kind of reminded me of, like, you know, Super 73, or there's the Rad Runner, or there's the Juiced Scrambler. Like, you know, there's a lot of these bikes that kind of look like a little moped or something, but most don't have adjustable seats, so you can't raise the saddle or slide it forward and backward to get that full leg extension. You can't swap the seat post with the suspension post to add comfort, so they just aren't as enjoyable to pedal like a traditional bicycle. Benno, with his decades of experience in the industry, has brought a more premium approach with a Bosch mid-drive and everything. Excellent weight distribution on this, battery placement, along with utility, right? So you can see it says e-tility, and he has this like triangle thing where it's like rides, looks, and cargo, and you can really feel that with this bike. It has a very comfortable, stable ride because it's got these fat tires, and the looks are very cool. It actually comes in 4 different colors. 2 of them are kind of like a little masculine, the other 2 are a little bright and fun, maybe feminine. So this is a bike that can appeal to a lot of people. It's very approachable, and the seat can be dropped down. It can accommodate people 5'1" all the way up to like 6'1". So I'm 5'9". I've got the seat raised not quite all the way, so you know, it could go higher, but I'm still getting great leg extension. Of course, there are some trade-offs, like these are 155 millimeter crank arms, not 170, so they're a little bit shorter. So, you know, your pedal, it feels a little bit different, but they did that so that you wouldn't have like pedal strikes and stuff. You can turn this bike and just not worry so much about what's going to happen here. Same thing with the Shimano Sora derailleur back here. I'm used to seeing mountain bike derailleurs like Shimano Dior and stuff, or, you know, Tourney, Altus, Acera, that kind of thing. So Sora, that's one step up from Claris. It's still kind of an entry derailleur, but it's more of a road bike one, and it doesn't hang down as far. So I was asking him, like, why'd you use that? And he's like, well, I wanted to have some nice clearance and keep it tucked in so that you don't have, you know, derailleur strikes if you get close to a curb. 48 tooth chain ring here, narrow wide teeth, so they really grab onto that chain so it shouldn't skip off if you're going over bumpy terrain. Maybe you're actually going off-road like I am here. We've got that bash guard or chain ring guard, and that's good for keeping your pants from getting kind of greasy or snagged. And if you do come into contact with a curb or a log or something, it protects the nice chain ring. Really well done. 11 to 32 tooth cassette Shimano. I mentioned Sora back here. This thing has shift detection because it's Bosch. Excellent pedals here. They're unbranded, but they're really big, solid aluminum alloy. They've got these nice pins, but they're kind of built into it, so they're not quite as sharp as actual adjustable pins. Black, they match. Look at the black spokes, everything really, really nicely tied in. But these rims are pretty custom, very nice, and they're actually Benno branded. I've got the details back at the side on those. This bike is, it's like I weighed it at 65.3 pounds, which is heavy. It's definitely heavier than the Benno Boost, almost like 8 pounds heavier, I think. Even though it looks a little bit smaller, this is sort of a mid-tail or compact cargo bike, but that's because it's chromoly steel, and it has 2 coats of paint. ED, I guess is what he was saying, so it actually has like a kind of a black layer in here, so if it gets chipped, like you can see here from probably someone putting the racks on, it's still going to be very durable. The reason I bring that up is because steel can rust, and at first I was like, well, what are these fenders? Are these, you know, and I think they're like a plastic, but they have like a tubular rib support going on, so you can see how they're pretty flexible, but that's not going to be as much of an issue if you do bump something. They go down pretty far, and look at the support arms on these. There's one here, and then a connection in the middle. This thing is not going anywhere, and that's allowed them to mount this Herrmans really nice headlight up here with side windows. Love that, especially when you're riding a shorter bike, right? You know, it'd actually be very nice to have the light up here, but you might mount like a cup holder or a phone or something like this. Having it down here works. I care a lot about safety. You'll hear me say that a lot. And in fact, I'm wearing a helmet here that has like a built-in kind of a light in the back. Abus gave me this helmet. I like the way it fits, but it's also very safe. You'll notice it's black. I want to be seen. I don't want to get hit by a car. I really like the rear light as well. I'm going to go ahead and boot this up just so you can see. Press the power button on the display, comes to life pretty quickly. Hold the plus button, and then you get the lights going. 2 LEDs and a nice big reflective surface. It is a little bit exposed right here, so if the bike tipped over or something, see how the light like comes out and a little bit above the steel frame. But this is a bike that you're gonna buy at a dealer. It's not gonna get shipped to you. It's probably gonna be in great shape when you get it. So I don't think that's a huge issue. The rear rack, it offers tons of accessories. It's by default, it's Racktime compatible, and they have these really cool slide racks that just kind of click right on. There's a basket with like a plastic tub. There's another one that's like a box. It kind of looks like a Vespa. You can really see that in the frame, and just this fun, unique design, very approachable. Like a Vespa, you'd sit on the seat and then put your feet down on like a platform. In this case, you've got pedals. Still very approachable, very low standover height. I was asking Benno, like, well, why'd you call it the RemiDemi? Because months ago, he had shown me like prototypes of this. He was like, check this out. You know, I kind of keep them secret and I just file it away like, wow, Benno's working on something cool again. And, you know, here it is. RemiDemi is kind of like a German word that means like ruckus or playful and just kind of like, you know, kids kind of goofing off or something and maybe not following the rules exactly. And that's probably what Benno had in mind when he was designing this, because it really doesn't follow the rules. It gives you like the comfort and stability of fat tires, but you traditionally wouldn't see those because they do weigh more and they create a little bit more friction and drag. But with a Bosch system, with any e-bike system, you're going to have a lot of efficiency and power, so you can overcome some of the negatives of a tire size like that. And a bike that's squat, where the pedaling does feel a little bit less natural than like a road bike where it's all really optimized and aerodynamic. This is more of a fun upright, and you can totally see that with like the high-rise handlebar here. It's swept back a little bit, the big comfortable saddle. This is a little bit more of a fun bike, and I think that the name really captures that, and it's a fun name, RemiDemi. In fact, I saw Karin from the New Wheel. It's like a shop in San Francisco, and they have a really fun post on their website, and her thing is like lights, fenders, action, and I get the impression she loved this bike. I'm a guy, I like this bike, and I actually shared it with a friend earlier. He liked it and stuff, but I think for women in particular, something that's very stable, comfortable, approachable, and the fun colors. This is Benno. I mean, he created Electra, which got sold to Trek, right? These are the Townie. He made that bike with like the flat foot design. The pedals are a little bit more forward, really comfortable. It lets you put your feet down. I feel like he designs bikes that women do like a lot, and I feel like this is another one that's going to be really appealing to a lot of people. So I just wanted to call that out and then compliment Karin and Brett for their thing. They also had a kid recently, and this bike is compatible with the Yepp Easyfit, so you can just like click it in like that. Fits easily on the back here. 65-pound weight capacity, and a higher weight capacity up front too. You can see there's a little graphic right here. So 65 pounds in the rear, 45 pounds up front if you get one of their 3 different racks, and they have bags and everything. They all look really awesome. 260 pounds for the rider, and so any sort of combination of these up to 400 pounds, but like minus the bike weight. So see how it says 65 pounds for the bike? So keep that in mind. I consider this a very strong and tough bike. You can see the derailleur is pretty well protected by that just the frame, like how it wraps around like that. But this is still, you know, it does have its limits. And I think part of that's because it is like a step-through. And so in order to have the frame that's not really flexy and that can support that much weight, they've done like a steering tube mounted front rack versus something that hangs out down here on the fork, or, you know, maybe on the handlebars or something. So that's not going to turn. When you turn the bike, the rack's just going to stay straight. It's going to hold the cargo really well in line with the frame, and hopefully not flex too much. I don't have any of the accessories to test, but with these extra bars right here, that's just carrying the strength through the frame. They did a really good job. And I mentioned weight distribution before. You can see how they've got this like shim going on. So 30.9 millimeters for that seat post. That's something that you could swap out to add even more comfort with like a suspension post. But the included saddle is pretty nice. It's Benno branded, but this is actually a Velo saddle. It matches these Benno branded rubber grips. These might be Velo as well, but they are locking. Very nice. They look really good. I mean, his stuff is just so beautiful. Hydraulic brakes. Very important if you do have a bike that weighs a little bit more, with a powerful motor, mind you. And imagine you have like a kid or a bunch of cargo or something up there. So let's talk about these brakes. 3-finger adjustable reach levers, Shimano. That's pretty great. Dual piston calipers, which is kind of standard. 180 millimeter front, 160 millimeter rear rotor. So a little bit smaller in the rear, and that's because your weight sort of shifts forward. So they went bigger in the front, and that's excellent considering that these are like 20-inch wheels. Now effectively they're probably closer to like 24-inch wheels or something. These tires right here, 20 by 4 1/4, so 4 1/4. Where's the branding here? Duro. I'd never seen these before. I don't know if they're puncture resistant. They have extra lining. They don't have reflective sidewall stripes, but they do seem really thick and they have a nice tread to them. So it's kind of like a city with a little bit of off-road potential. Maybe go on a dirt road and be fine. 36 holes, black spokes like I was talking about before. Really interesting dropout and axle design. So 135 millimeter width up front, 190 in the rear. So this is not normal. Usually it's like 175 for fat bikes. So it's like extra wide. And I think that does give you a slightly different feel when you're pedaling this bike. Like your feet are a little bit splayed, not a ton. And again, the cranks are a little shorter. So this bike just feels a little different. We're not on like a typical, you know, city bike or a road bike or anything like that, but then that's okay. It still feels good. And I guess I just want to communicate some of those trade-offs and also point out that they used a solid axle right here. So it's like a 10 millimeter solid axle that just goes right through, and it's integrated with the hub. So it's not like a through axle that comes out, and that would probably add, you know, cost and complexity, especially when you've got a unique rear dropout spacing. So on to price, $33.99 USD. You get an excellent warranty. This thing, again, being sold through shops and being Bosch, it's like 2-year comprehensive, and there's all kinds of diagnostic tools and potential upgrades and stuff, including the display. It comes with, you know, maybe more of the entry level here. This is the Purion, but now you can upgrade that to Kiox or even Nion that's coming out in the fall of 2020. Okay, so I'm just gonna walk around the bike and point out some other things I noticed. We got 2 bottle cage bosses right here. Maybe you have the bottle here and a folding lock right there. That's pretty cool. A few different accessories that we don't really know about back here, but I'm guessing it's some sort of rear passenger setup because they have accessories for that on the Benno Boost, which is a little bit longer. So there's got to be something coming. Again, down here, maybe we have some little platforms for your feet or pegs or something like that. We don't really know at this time. I want to point out the fender support arms again. 1, 2, 3 positions. So it doesn't rattle. It feels really, really solid. They've done a great job with that. Yeah. Just a nice setup all around. Those are the 3 mounting points. Internally routed cables. Gotta love that. Extra long kickstand down here that is adjustable. I made it a little bit longer so the bike would stand up straight for my photos. But then there's an extra mounting point right there, right here, and that's for their double leg kickstand if you really want to have the bike being straight and solid for loading. But the way that he positioned this, check this out. You don't get pedal lock. Amazing. So having a kickstand that's like so close to the bottom bracket, but that doesn't cause pedal lock, excellent. Great job, Benno. I really appreciate that. And then just back here, there's a 160 millimeter disc brake rotor. We've got the Bosch sensor and the magnet. So just be careful that that doesn't get bumped out of place. It can create kind of a read error, and sometimes people are like, what's going on? And it's like, you know, a lot of times it's just that little magnet that's spoke mounted. Some of the newer systems actually have it integrated into the disc brake rotor, but maybe it's more expensive or it's just more crowded or complex. This totally works, and it does a really good job. So up until now, I've been pretty positive about the bike, and I think that's easy to do because it's using an excellent drive system and it's something really unique. But there are trade-offs, and one of them is obviously the weight. Another one is it only comes in one size, and sure, that's adjustable, but it could feel a little tight. You know, if you're a really tall person, maybe you can swivel the handlebars forward or something. I struggled to get this onto my car in such a way that my car rack could actually support it. I would highly recommend like a crossbar adapter that goes from here to here, and it gives you like this tube to sort of clamp onto depending on the type of, you know, car rack you have. Maybe you have like a Hollywood rack or something. It needs to grab onto something, and since it has these fenders, I didn't feel super comfortable putting my clamp right here, and then when it was out here, it couldn't get close enough. I was kind of getting as low as I could. The fat tires, they also sort of spilled out of the tray on my rack. So there is like a Thule X2 or whatever that, you know, it's designed a little bit more for fat tires, but these are pretty big, like, you know, 4 1/4 versus just 4-inch fat tires. So those are some of the trade-offs just that have to do with the frame. And again, even the wheelbase and stuff. I've measured this back at the site so you can measure and look at your own car rack and see if that's going to be a good fit. Not having suspension and really not being able to replace this very easily because of the 135 millimeter dropout and just the way that this is all set up, 1.125" straight. It's nice, and they're using, you know, sealed bearings. It's internal, but it's just, you're probably not going to get a suspension fork for this, and that's fine. So coming back to maybe some of these other touch points, it's nice that they're so good. The other thing is, we're using the slower 2 amp Bosch charger. It only weighs 1.3 pounds, so it's going to be easy to just toss in your backpack and bring with you and charge, but it does take a little bit longer. Not too much longer, because this is the Bosch PowerPack 400, a little bit lower capacity battery, when Bosch now has 500 and even 625 watt-hour options, but the 625s are all internal. So if you're going to get a PowerPack, at least this is lightweight. This is like 5.4, 5.5 pounds, really lightweight compared to a power tube. It's a little bit external, you know, but it blends in with the bike nicely and the weight's positioned well. To unlock it, we use these ABIS keys, and these are nice. They're ABIS, but they're not the nicest that ABIS offers, the ones that offer like the key-to-like setup where you can get locks and stuff that use the same key. Those ones, they have the plus code card, and they're a little bit fancier. So just put it in, twist. There we go. We got this nice handle. Easy to take this inside, not going to drop it. 36 volts, 11 amp hours. So, you know, it's roughly 400 watt hours. Nice proprietary plug and everything too. I compliment Bosch's stuff quite a bit. This is almost like a two-tone cover. It looks nice. It's got a little charge level indicator built into the side. Being able to take your battery off is a big deal when you have a heavier bike like this and you're trying to get it on a bike rack. I mentioned this the other day in a review, but I usually grab the right brake and hold on to it, lock it, and then I tip the bike up and then set the front wheel down on a rack versus trying to lift the whole thing. This is a lot of weight. Maybe get a friend, just be careful. It's another reason why having hydraulic brakes is so nice, because they grab without, you know, really needing a whole lot of hand strength. They do have adjustable reach as well. You can bring them in and just get this feeling great, whether you're that 5'1" or 6'1" individual. So the battery pack, once you've got it off, maybe being able to charge this inside or, you know, away from extreme heat and extreme cold, because those sort of degrade the cells a little bit. Cold is just going to stunt it and limit your range. The heat will actually start to wear down the lithium ion chemistry a little bit, and you're not going to get as many full charge cycles as a result. You know, in this position, if you didn't lock it in super well, it seems like it kind of holds on, but it would ultimately bounce out and then fall off the bike. And these are kind of expensive, so I want to just show you, you really have to like push. There you go, and listen for that click, and maybe even try it a little bit so that it doesn't fall off. I have had that happen before when I'm testing bikes, and you feel so bad. You don't want to accidentally damage that. And then maybe you already have a Bosch powered e-bike, and perhaps you've got the PowerPack 500. This bike, and really all PowerPacks, they're designed to be interchangeable. So you could upgrade the battery capacity at some point and get like a longer range one. Maybe you get a battery and put it in that optional bag or something like that, or the front tray rack, and then you could like double or triple your range depending. Now the range on this e-bike should be decent, probably not as good as a lighter bike, a bike that has narrower, maybe more efficient tires, but still pretty good because the Bosch drive system is so efficient. Again, this is not Active Line or Active Line Plus. That's the most efficient, but kind of the weakest. This is the Performance Line motor. Okay, so we're getting up to 65 Newton meters of torque, which is quite good. That used to be like 75 Newton meters of torque, but they've sort of broken out this lineup a little bit. And let me try to break that down for you. So Bosch has Active Line. It only gives you 105 RPM support and a little bit less torque. It's like 40 Newton meters. Then we have Active Line Plus. That gives you 50 Newton meters and 110 RPM support. And then kind of my favorite of these three, the Performance Line motor, up to 65 Newton meters of torque, 300% pedal force feedback, which is great. It starts at 55, goes up to 300. It's an excellent motor, and this is redesigned to be a little bit lighter. It used to be 8.8 pounds, and now it's like 7.05 pounds. It's more compact. It's got a full-size chain ring, so you're not getting reduction gear drag that we used to get with these proprietary sprockets. And they would also bring the chain a lot closer to the chainstay, and it could kind of bounce and make more noise and maybe chip your frame and stuff. So this is an excellent motor. It's not giving you 75 Newton meters like the old Performance Line motors, or 85 Newton meters like the new Performance Line CX, Speed, Cargo, and Cargo Speed, but it's going to be more efficient than those. And again, compact, lightweight. It does a really good job. I really feel like this is one of my favorite motors, and I'm glad that Benno didn't go with like the Active Line Plus. That would have worked just fine, but considering the weight of this bike, it's nice to have a more powerful motor. But you know, we're talking about range, so it's like we have the smallest of the Bosch battery packs. And so for me, that's one of the points where it's like, you know, you're paying a lot of money, and I really think you're getting a great bike with a lot of upgrade potentials and, you know, cargo and everything. But this is one area when you think about the battery and stuff, it's a bit of a trade-off. So I'd estimate, you know, 25 to 45, 50 miles, something like that. It really depends on the pedal assist level that you're in. Go ahead and boot this thing up. So this is the Purion, fairly reachable from that left grip. Comes to life very quickly. It shows your current speed. We're in kilometers per hour right now, but if I hold minus and tap power, we go to miles per hour. So that's how you do that. You change back and forth. It's a really simple display with only like really a few buttons. So it's like power, plus, minus, walk mode down here. You can use walk mode to carry this bike. I guess it helps it carry itself, and I used that getting up some steps earlier. But in order to do that, you can't be in the lowest level of assist, which says off. You have to be in Eco, Tour, Sport, or Turbo. And once you are, you just press walk mode, hold the plus button for a second. There we go. And then the motor kicks off, and it starts to move itself. This is a backlit display. It's kind of faint. You know, you can't see it glowing that much. I feel like it's not wasting a lot of electricity, but you can't really adjust the brightness that much either. It's just kind of like set it and forget it. And I feel like it does a good job. One of the reasons that it's maybe not my favorite display from Bosch is because it's like they're teasing you. They got this micro USB port over here, but that's really just for diagnostics. You can't use that to like charge your phone and use it for GPS or anything. There's no app support or anything. This is just very basic, probably saves some money. It's very simple and intuitive, and it does get the job done. So anytime you press plus or minus, you're going to see the different levels of assist show up. So here we go, turbo, and then it kind of goes away because right now we're in the odometer. Now, if we want to change the default readout, we can hold minus. So we go from odometer to range, and range is really cool because it dynamically tells you how far it thinks the bike can go based on the last like mile of riding. And that includes like the bike weight, how hard you're working, maybe the tire pressure. All these things play a role. So it's neat that the computer is being smart. It's giving you feedback. So in sport, it says, okay, you can go a little bit further, 41 kilometers, tour, 52, and then eco, it's the lowest level of assist, 55% support, 84 kilometers. So you can see there's a pretty big difference between the support levels. I like to test up in turbo just so you guys can hear the motor. Down here we have a battery infographic, 5 ticks. Leaves something to be desired for me because each tick's like 20%, and when you get down to the first tick, you don't know, like, am I at 0 or I'm at 20? Like, how far can I go? And that's where range is so nice. It's nice that you have range to fall back on so that you don't end up stuck with a heavy bike pedaling all the way back home. At least we have that, you know, 9-speed drivetrain, and that's why this is called the RemiDemi 9D, 9-speed derailleur. So anyway, back to the display. We also have this light icon, and that's because the lights are turned on. You can turn them off by holding plus and then turn them back on. I don't feel like the lights use a lot of electricity, but they're just that really good safety feature. Again, there's no, you know, blinking mode or, you know, bright mode activation, but these are Herrmans, really nice European brand, and that headlight with the kind of the top cut design so it doesn't shine up into people's eyes, and then the side window, really good job on those. Definitely loving that. And I think that's kind of it. That's the display. We've touched on everything else. So we're at one of my favorite shops here. This is City Cycles in Langley, and you can see they've got a few of these like utility bikes here. Cube's got one. We got Turn, which has just a really wide range actually of kind of like the long tail and then like mid tail and utility cargo bike type stuff. I just wanted to show you the Racktime accessories. These are really cool, whether it's a bag or this box down here. It just slides right on. It just connects right to this rack back here. So kind of line it up like this. And then see there's these pins right down there. And if you just kind of slide those towards the end, there we go. It just snaps right into place. A little bit tricky with one hand, but I love that. And the weight rating on this particular metal basket here, it's always tough with just one hand filming, but looks like the basket itself, 24 kilograms, and then 23 kilograms for the plastic tub, which is so cool. You can take that out, you can wash it if you need to. Just fits so perfectly, and it has that little slide lever, so you know, you push down on this, it releases in it, and it just comes off so easily. I thought that was awesome, and it's something that they were kind of talking about. When you look at the rack systems from each company, they kind of have their own proprietary stuff. And over here with the Cube, you can see they've got the acid system with the kind of traditional spring latch. But one of the things that Benno has done so well here is just that extra thick tubing, and we got the extra bosses everywhere, lots of mounting points, and just especially this basket accessory. Very cool. Good job from Racktime with that. So I'm going to stow the kickstand and do a little bit of riding with you guys off-road here, just so you can listen for rattling and get a sense for how this might feel. I can tell you that with the tires pumped all the way up, it can be a little bit jarring. Smaller diameter wheels, they give you like a higher attack angle, so you just like run into things, versus like a big wheel, it's a lower attack angle. It smooths over things a little bit more and gives you like just a smooth transition. But again, sometimes those are not high volume in terms of air. I have the pressure at like 25 on these. There isn't like a min max recommendation. They just say inflate to 35 psi. So I'm kind of going off what I've seen with other fat bike tires. They usually say like 5 to 20 psi. So these they're a little bit higher psi, which was interesting to me. If you are on soft terrain and you want the tires to kind of spread out and give you a little bit more surface area and not sink in, like if you're looking for float, you might be able to lower the tire pressure, but I'm not really sure what to recommend. They also recommend 2.5 bar if you're measuring your tire pressure in that instead. So I'm going to go along. Might be a little bit bouncy here, but we'll go for it. Oh, here we go. Pretty comfortable and stable. Whoa, I was kind of being daring there. I've done a bunch of no hand riding on the street where it's really, you know, just not as choppy, but I felt comfortable trying it back there and it did pretty well. It's one-handed braking with that big 180 millimeter disc brake rotor up front, no problem. And I feel like the drivetrain is just very quiet. The motor's quiet as well. And very dynamic. Because it's measuring pedal torque, like the harder I push, the zippier it feels. Like right now, even though I'm in turbo, I'm in the highest level of assist, it's not going crazy. And that's because I'm really not pushing. But as soon as I do, just zooms right up to speed. Very nice. This is a class 1 electric bike, which is kind of nice. That's the most permissible e-bike type that there is. And it means that it can go on a lot of like, you know, dirt trails and stuff. Whereas mountain bikes and stuff, you know, they all tend to be class 1. If you try to take a bike with a throttle or class 3 high speed, you can kind of be bending the rules there a little bit and put yourself in a liability risk, which I don't really love to do. I did classify this as commuter ready as well back at ElectricBikeReview.com because it's got integrated lights, fenders, and a rear rack. That's sort of my standard, and I do think that this would work well as a commuter, especially being able to remove that battery. So yeah, keep that in mind. I've been climbing some of these bigger hills and just seeing how this feels going down, trying to get a sense for frame flex, and it feels solid. Like they've done a really good job with the frame, and you can totally see how thick some of this is. It's just excellent. And the seat post, I mean, 2 bolts versus 1. It's not quick release. It's got that little shim in there to really hold it. Very nice, but I am relying on the brakes, and one of my other, maybe a little complaint here is that they went with Shimano Sora trigger shifters, and the high gear up here, you can only pull that trigger. You can't push it with your thumb. Had they gone with like Shimano Dior or something, you could use your thumb for both. And the reason that I like that is because then, you know, a lot of times I'm riding like this with both my fingers at the ready on the brake levers. And, you know, you can hear all these cars and stuff going by. It's like, I want to be focused on braking and everything, and maybe I wouldn't be shifting in those cases. But if I did need to shift, it'd be nice to be able to do it with my thumb. So it's a very minor thing, but maybe worth calling out as a trade-off. We got a nice downhill section here, and I'm going to go a little bit faster just to see, you know, how this performs. I'm getting any speed wobble or anything, taking it all the way up to the highest gear. Feeling really steady. We're way past the 32 kilometer per hour, 20 mile per hour top speed. And you can still pedal, you're not getting that drag. Feeling pretty good. That's nice, because sometimes these heavier bikes, especially a step-thru like this, they don't handle the higher speeds very well. This feels solid. And you know, it's designed by one of the greatest, so I'm not surprised. Still going down the hill, we got a nice view over there. This is a great testing hill, so I'm just gonna turn around. Nice, still using just one hand. And with those bigger tires, you know, I was able to coast up that crack on the sidewalk without getting hung up. And that's a big deal if you've ever like crossed a train track and then had your wheel kind of get hung up and then crashed. It's no fun. That's one of the benefits of fat tires, is they tend to just like roll over obstacles a little bit easier. So I'm getting ready to go up this hill here. I'm in the highest level of assist, and it looks like I'm in gear 5. This is not ideal. You'd want to be in a lower gear to really give that motor a mechanical advantage. This is like a manual transmission on a car. You want to be in a low gear to start, otherwise you can kind of stall. In this case, we won't really stall. It's just the motor is not going to give us very much help. We're going to have to work harder. So I just want to see how well this climbs since we're on a nice gradient here. I'm going to get my pedal ready, kick off. There we go. It's doing it. I'm not having to get up. We're actually gaining a little bit of speed here, like 10 kilometers per hour. Yep. Pretty quiet too. No problem. And now if I shift down, there we go. I tried to give myself a little bit of speed before shifting so I wouldn't mash the drivetrain. Yep, and no problem. And now we're almost at the top of the hill. You can see it's starting to flat out a little bit. That was nice. So very well done. I know the Bosch motor can be very capable, and it really just depends on how you shift those gears, how you handle the bike. Okay guys, we're looking down at that 48 tooth narrow wide chainring. I really like that because you can see that there's kind of like a bash guard or a chainring guard just on one side. Some other companies have it on both sides, but in this case, since we have such a wide rear hub spacing, like 190 millimeters, to get this to line up, they kind of had to move the chainring out a little bit. So anyways, it feels like it's really durable. Nice 9-speed drivetrain. Love that rubberized slap guard. And this whole rear end is pretty custom. So there's like a replaceable derailleur hanger. So this bike is tough, like all the way around. Steel frame, everything's working really well. It looks like it's a rust-resistant chain. One thing I'm noticing now, maybe just because it's brand new, is I pedal, and when I've got assist, it feels great, but when I stop pedaling, it kind of clunks forward. There's like a little bit of inertia with that, or it's really not inertia. It's some sort of mechanical just pressure, I guess. And you can kind of feel that when I pedal backwards too. Like, see, it doesn't really spin freely there. It's kind of turning the gears in there, but at least it cycles the chain ring so you can lube the chain and kind of adjust your drivetrain this way without flipping the bike over or putting it into sand, which is really nice. So, you know, the Bosch motor is measuring rear wheel speed, pedal cadence, and pedal torque over 1,000 times per second. It's really dynamic. We're going to start in the highest level of assist, turbo, just so that this is like as pronounced and responsive as possible. And this is set up with EcoTour Sport turbo instead of EcoTour EMTB turbo, like some of the other, you know, Performance Line CX and stuff. Those are like the higher end motors even than this. Again, 65 Newton meters of torque on this versus like a CX, which would be 85 Newton meters. I'm going to pedal pretty fast because I want to demonstrate that it gives you up to 120 RPM pedal support. That's great. Some of the other like Active Line Plus motors, they only give you 105, 110 respectively, 120. This is what you get with the really higher end Bosch motors. Performance Line CX, Speed, Cargo, and Cargo Speed. Here we go. Yep, I took my feet off the pedals just to demonstrate how, you know, again, the spindle, I guess, is sort of like locked to the motor a little bit, and it'll just keep going. It's not like floating like a lot of the other mid-drives. Some of them actually spin backwards with like no pressure, and they just, you know, there's no friction, and it just spins and it can get out of control. I guess it's kind of fine. This is not the kind of decision point that might be like a deal killer for the bike. It's just interesting to note. Here's another fun view of the drivetrain. You can see the chain and the chain ring and just how nice and straight that is, really well aligned. know, I definitely still am feeling that like pedal pressure when I stop pedaling. I mentioned this before. Maybe it's because it's new. It's a little annoying, you know. Maybe that'll go away over time. I'd love to hear your comments, because a lot of times I'm looking at brand new bikes. There's just that little extra. It almost feels like when I stop pedaling, the pedal kind of pushes up a little bit with pressure, because it doesn't want to stop. It's connected to the motor somehow. I mean, it does. It's just, I don't know. It's just a little thing, but worth calling out. Well, I was out at the mailbox just testing the bike, and of course I met this guy's real friendly. He's like, "Is that an electric bike?" So I said, "Yeah, you know, you could try it out if you want." He's having a blast up there. Just, it's first time on an e-bike, I think. We got the rain coming down now, so good thing we got fenders.
Exactly.
Look at that. How do you like it?
I love it.
Of course. Love that headlight. Nice.
This is fantastic. This is fantastic.
Is that your first time on an e-bike?
Yes, it is.
What did you think? I mean, how did it feel
I
compared to a
thought it
normal
handled
bike?
beautifully.
Yeah?
It is absolutely perfect.
Sweet.
And I'm definitely picking up one of these.
I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah,
I'm so glad we ran into each other.
Me too.
I was like studying the specs, and you're getting the mail.
I was looking for something to buy, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And this just seems like the right fit.
It would.
Sure.
Well, you have good taste. I mean, you got like nice car, cool shirt, artistic kind of guy.
There you go. You know, this is the kind of stuff that I'd love, because normally when I'm on set, I like to get around from one area to the next. I could bring this down to the movie.
Oh, and it's so
studio.
quiet, lighter than like a vehicle.
I could ride back and forth down to set without waiting for transport. This is definitely a keeper.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Take care. I'll give you the wave since I got the camera.
Thanks a lot. Enjoy, guys. You have a great product.
Sweet.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that's about it. I want to thank Benno for spending some time with me on the phone. I just barely caught him. The guy's traveling all over the place. And to thank him, he gave me those screenshots well before this bike came out. And it's just neat to see what's going on in the industry. And of course, City Cycles, who loaned me this bike to do the review. It's always fun. And I went into extreme detail listing the specs and measuring them by hand back at the site, so you can kind of know what to get, you know, if you're gonna upgrade some things, or if you have the car rack and you're trying to see if it'll fit. I care about you guys. I also have a comparison tool back there, and you can compare this to some of the other like scrambler type of bikes if you want. You are paying more for this, but you are getting a really good ride experience and a lot of reliability, in my opinion. So I hope you have fun out there. I love you. Ride safe, and we'll see you on the next one.